Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. In today's video, I wanted to make a, video discussing where to start watching Super Sentai. You know, with Power Rangers being on a hiatus, it's a good time for a lot of people to maybe get into Sentai and Rider, so I'm doing a video for one of each of these, just talking about some general recommendations of where to find to watch this stuff, sort of, as well as some recommendations of where to start. So as far as where to find it, obviously for Sentai, we actually have a really good handful of Sentai DVD releases that have happened. As of this current recording, we have, for like Power Rangers related, Ranger through Deca Ranger, and then we also have Jetman as well as 5-Man. So you have a ton to pick from in there. I'll kind of give my recommendations from both ones, from the ones that have been released and then other ones as well. But you have a pretty healthy catalog of ones you can pick up physical copies of. I believe Shout Factory also does some streaming of those. I know that Rider is on Tubi, but there is some like free streaming stations that will also stream those or have them available for stream with ads and stuff like that, so you can check them out like that. So there are some that are available officially. As for the other series that haven't been released officially on DVD or streaming, there is one site I have found for both Sentai and Rider, and I'll bring this up in the Rider video, that is perfect for getting to find where to watch these shows by other means. It's not known very well, but if you type the names in, Google. I know the second best way to do it is to just ask YouTubers where to watch it and wait for them to answer, but Google, I hear, will answer you right away. So as far as where to start, I want to say right away, in terms of Sentai, like I am going to give some recommendations, but it's all going to be like anything else, taste-based. And every series will offer something different tones. You know, some are a little bit more serious, not like people will overhype it like Sentai is an HBO Max caliber show. Let's get real, people. Some will be a little more serious, some will be a little more silly, some something in between. You know, some will have different formats, like Go Busters, Don Brothers, and recently King Oger are a little bit more different than the typical format. So what you like is all going to depend on your tastes. And because Sentai doesn't have a long-running true continuity, you can start anywhere. Yes, there are team-up movies and stuff like that, and they've been doing crossovers recently, but Sentai has a really trash continuity in terms of the overall universe, where they connect them when they want to, and then don't connect them when they don't. Because when they sit down to make each series, it's meant to be self-contained to a degree, because they want to be able to do what they want with that respective mythology. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. So you can go watch Magi Ranger and then go watch like Geki Ranger and then King Oger, and you know, yes, there is like a Kyoryuger crossover in that, but for the most part, you don't have to follow it in order. There is no larger continuity. So that's that. But also, with Sentai, outside of the recommendations I'm going to give you, what I would personally do is just go look at the series, you know, look at the suits, maybe think about which Power Rangers series you liked, check out a little synopsis, and see which one interests you, because some of these on the list I recommend you might hate. There might be some on this list that I omitted because I'm not a big fan that you might love. So that would be my number one advice, is outside of taking anyone else's recommendations like this based on their taste, is just see which ones might appeal to you. With that being said, you know, of the ones we have official DVDs of, I personally think Kaku Ranger is a really fun one that has like a great amalgam of all of Sentai's different tones, as it has pretty good characters, a really interesting mythology, but also a lot of zany, wacky fun. I also think Aba Ranger is a great one for that too, is it definitely can lean towards more wacky, but I've always described it as a great jack of all trades. If it also has a pretty well thought out mythology, some great character stuff, some of those darker moments where characters' lip bleeds and make fans think it's super mature, but also like just crazy wacky stuff. Plus, Whacker Wilson. Need I say more? I personally haven't watched Go-Go 5 yet, or Time Ranger, but I'm going to mention them just because I have heard good things about them, so I think that they're probably worth checking out as well. Now, as far as non-recommendations for, you know, the non-recommendations. As far as recommendations that aren't from the official Sentai release list, I gotta personally recommend Geki Ranger. That was my first Sentai. I think it's a very well-rounded Sentai experience in terms of just a classic Sentai experience with interesting characters, mythology, bit of that classic Sentai format, good fights, interesting villains, you know. It doesn't necessarily stand out from the crowd, but it's just kind of a good all-around Sentai experience. Similarly, Magi Ranger I think is a good one. That might be one we could get soon on DVD. That would be great, but I think that has a really well fleshed out world. I think the family dynamic makes it unique, but it's also just a great classic, well-rounded Sentai experience. Kyoryuger, another good one. You know, Kyoryuger in a different way, much like Aba Ranger, I think it's a great amalgam of all the different types of tones you'll get from Sentai. It's a really fun series, you know, a very popular one. And if you want to check out King Oger, if you want to watch that one first, if you're thinking about watching anything chronologically. Speaking of, for some more unique experiences, as of the time this video is being recorded, we're like 7 or so episodes away from King Oger ending, but that's a really great one. That's very different, not very different, but I mean, it's a good mix of very much feeling like Sentai. You got your classic Sentai action and structure to a degree, but also is much more serialized and structured differently than most Sentai. I would say 90% of Sentai share the same like architecture of like their framework of like, blow the bad guy up, gets bigger, all that type of stuff, and then, certain arcs. But King Oger is structured very differently, but not too differently. So if you're in the mood for something that's going to be a little bit different. Same thing with Dawn Brothers. Dawn Brothers often plays a little bit more like a drama with a very different structure, but it's something really nice and different. It might not be for everybody. I think that Go Busters 2 is also that nice mix of like very much classic feeling Sentai, but they will shake up the structure every now and then. Keep in mind though, with series like that, like Dawn Brothers and King Oger, I'm not going to say don't watch them first, but it is going to be very different. So if like King Oger is your first Sentai or Dawn Brothers is, those are both very different structurally than 90% of other Sentai, but that'll give you kind of just a good different sampling of different types of Sentai series. I also wanted to end off mentioning Gokaiger because I do see Gokaiger mentioned either as something a lot of people watch first or as a recommendation. And sure, who am I to stop you? It's recommended because they have, of course, the changes and a lot of cameos that kind of gives you a bit of a sampler platter of series. But what I would say with that is those cameos and a lot of the things they do in there are going to hit a lot harder if you've already seen the Sentai. I just don't understand why you would want to start there. That's like starting watching the MCU with Infinity War. I would recommend at least watching a handful of Sentai first. Like, again, you don't have to, and it's not like gatekeeping. I'm just saying the experience of the things Gokaiger does that's so exciting in terms of the anniversary is so much better for you if you've already seen a few other Sentai. I just can't imagine watching that as your first experience. But that is just a few of my recommendations. If you're a Sentai fan and you want to leave your recommendations for new fans in the comments, go ahead and do that. But until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.